All right. Back with what will probably be either the last or one of the last 5NL sessions that I've got recorded. And I will do a very short video where I put the graph up for 5NL for 50,000 hands. I've only played 49,000 and something, so I've got a few hundred to go. But we'll do a video where I show the results, and I won't show the 10NL graph until it gets to the same number, maybe 100,000 hands. I think I need a decent sample. 50,000 hands is a sample, reasonable. It's not reasonable sample. It's not huge, but it's probably big enough to get an idea of whether you're beating a stake or not. And yeah, flopping the open-ender with the Jack-9 seems like a pretty straightforward c-bet. So yeah, definitely we'll be just moving up to 10 and L, and yeah, sticking with that unless it goes absolutely horribly. We'll be playing 10 and L from now on. I think with the Jack-9 on the left, I would like to see a large bet. It's very difficult for him to have a particularly strong hand. He's not going to have better than one pair most of the time, and Ace Queen will probably 3-bet pre, so just puts a lot of pressure on stuff like his 10-9, Jack-10, even his stuff like pocket eights that call the flop. I've noticed that a common theme in 5NL is people will fold to a lot of C bets, but people will call C bets probably a little loose, but then will fold to a lot of turn bets. If people call your flop and turn bet, they're often sticking around. They're often decided they're going the whole way. So C bet and the King 10 into two people. And my play here would be to bet big, fold to a bet pretty big, fold to a check raise, bet big, and then check back a lot of rivers. And get called by so many worse hands, checking back just to give free cards to spades and random 9-8 hands doesn't seem to make any sense. That would be a more difficult thing to do if people were check raising on the turn with a flush draw, which you're just going to see so little of. I will say this, that when I do show my graph of 5NL, one thing that will stand out is that I've run good. And that's just my slight concern is moving up when you're running significantly above EV. I might have a slightly inaccurate view of my actual win rate of 5NL. But even if I ran exactly on EV, it would still not be a bad graph. I think by the time I do end up getting to 50,000 hands, unless I have a complete disaster in the last few hundred. Yeah, 7-8 there. I wouldn't even hate a bet. I think people are going to bet the flop with flush draws. You can get called here by big hearts or a jack or something. Okay, we do value bet the river and get a call. Ace King. One difficulty here watching these back is I don't know the stats. I think a 4-bet is probably 4-bet get it in is probably fine unless the guy has super tight stats. Now that I've decided to go a bit more passive, I think then just checking and calling is probably the best play, depending on sizing. If he bets, I think we can raise this. I think we want to get chips in the pot, unless I decide. Yeah, I suppose I decide once I've decided to take a passive line uh, to continue to take one. Certainly don't want to get aggressive on this card. This is a shocker. Ace Queen gets there, Jacks get there. When he checks back the turn, yeah, I think a small bet is in order. Can always fold. He would bet the turn if he had sets, if he had Ace Queen. The only time you're going to get raised here is if the guy's backdoor diamonds, but you do want to get value if he has queens or he has a hand like Ace Jack. 7-6 off to a 2.2. I go either way with that. It is 2.2x, so it is a small raise, but it's a pretty weak hand. And indeed, this is sort of the problem that when you do call, even though you're getting a good price with a hand like 7-6, it's so difficult to realize your equity. 10-7-2 rainbow is a pretty decent board, and yet we end up just having to fold to a single bet. Jack 10 off to a 3x from the hijack, I think, is a fold. One thing I think I'm also going to do at some point is probably play on another site as well. I do have a small amount on Party Poker, but I'm looking at other sites, possibly playing on GG Poker. Seems like a decent site to play on. I think that might even be these days the most popular site, perhaps with the most players. The only thing that's sort of slightly put me off is I haven't looked into the rake. The rake is, the rake's pretty high in general, but there seems to have been some publicity not that long ago that, GG was pretty high when it came to rake. So I got the volume on my videos lately has been a bit low, so maybe I need to turn it up. So sorry if you're watching this and I've suddenly become a lot louder. My technical skills are not exactly fantastic. Alrighty, the nines on the right. I think it's okay to call here. I think actually three bet would also be fine, or with squeeze, whatever it would be. I believe that guy is going to come into the pot. Now, what do I do here? We go for a bet. I don't know about this. This just feels like a weird line to take, betting into two people. Now that I've decided to do this, I think another. I think this is fine. Getting value from sevens, eights, garbage like ace six. Some guy that's randomly calling with just two nonsense overcards, which you will see from time to time. And now I think it's just a check. I think I remember this. Pocket kings, yeah. I mean, that's a really bizarre way for that guy to play that hand. Limps in. There's then an ISO I call and he just calls. Yeah, that's yeah, not the textbook way of playing kings, but hey, who am I to criticize it? It beat me. Queen Jack of Diamonds here. Yeah, I do think I like a raise. Probably could go a little bit larger, but we are at least now taking control of the pot. I think he's going to fold to that. Now that we get a card where we pick up some more equity, I think a decent sized bet, perhaps an over bet on this card is in order. Yep. Again, another situation where people sticking around on the flop, folding to a big turn bet. I wonder if at 10 and L, if that will work as frequently. Seen this guy played quite a bit recently. Is it Sektorov? I haven't done very well in hands against him, to be perfectly honest. I think I've definitely lost money to him. Always slightly surprising when you see guys playing at these stakes who've got that little symbol next to them, the Queen Queen. I think that means he must have played something like it's at least 1 million hands. It may actually be 2 million when you get to Queen Queen. So you sometimes see people with Ace Ace. Like there is a guy who plays who's got the Ace Ace thing. I think that means he's played like 5 million hands or maybe more. Got a pretty delicious board with the queens, and we decide to go for the check. Now I do remember this hand. Sort of an interesting spot. We get bet, raise. What's the play here? Because it feels like anything I do is going to look very strong. I decide to rip it all in. And I partly do this, and I think I had this the other day, and I don't know if this is true. It looks weaker to go all in. Like this could be ace high diamonds. If you raise to say 40, 42, 43, it looks ridiculously strong. Anything I do will look strong. But a check raise like that from him, that doesn't seem like a play you see very often. So I wonder what hand that was, whether he was check raising with a hand like King Jack. I don't know, but you see, it looks like you get the absolute perfect scenario, and you just don't quite win the pot you thought you would. You know what I mean? If you know what I mean. There, when he check raised, I just assumed that he's not check raising to fold. Like I don't see hands. The hands that should be check raising there, pocket fours, maybe like ace high diamonds or jack ten of diamonds, king queen. I don't think any of those fold to a jam. So yeah, not sure. Big slick. Queen seven of diamonds. And again, I suspect something I have. I mean, I played about 7,000 hands of 10 and L. One thing I think I certainly noticed was getting three bet more um, from the blinds. You couldn't just raise the button absolutely willy nilly. I think at 5NL, I wonder if there is an argument that you could raise the button with literally any two and it would be profitable. I wouldn't necessarily advocate any two, but I think you can raise really, really wide. Pocket threes on both tables. And there's that little set I spy of my little eye. I think a raise is certainly in order, particularly on that board. We totally unblocked the top part of it. Suspect he's going to continue quite a lot. Lovely, lovely turn card. Nice juicy bet in order. Could have even probably gone a smidge larger, but and he calls fast. And looking like I go greedy. I just don't know about this. It it may be a flaw I've got on the river that when I've got a strong hand, I just bet too large. Perhaps there, just something like 2/3 is fine. The king is one of those cards where he's often going to not like. Yes, he can have king queen. He could also have ace jack. Could have hand like king 10. But his cards are mostly going to be stuff like ace queen, queen jack, maybe king jack. I think all in against a range that looks not particularly strong is probably a little bit ambitious. And anyway, what bluffs are we really going to have there? The main bluff, Jack 9 now is a straight. Even King Jack would be a pair of kings. So I think that's an example of me probably just getting a little bit too greedy. And against some of the, just the more standard reg players, that's a play to do as a bluff, I think. It's going to work a huge amount, but with value, I think probably just a 2/3 pot would have been fine. And that's what I'm trying to do when I look at my poker tracker. It isn't just looking at the hands I lost to say, could I have avoided? It's looking at the hands I won and going, did I win the maximum? And I think maybe that's something that I haven't focused on enough. If you're butchering value spots, it isn't necessarily as obvious because you win the hand and think, oh, that went okay, but I may have left 20 big blinds on the table there. I think a bet with the 5-6 and the. I think, yeah, he's checked twice. I think we can now bet. The guy to our left probably would have bet on the flop if he had a pocket pair, any piece of it. So, yep, I like that play. Interesting board. We go for just a standard C bet on these boards. And this is another thing I've noticed. I probably over C bet, but I over C bet because people will fold. I think as I'm going to go up to the next level, if I continue to play exactly as I am here, I'm not convinced it will be as successful, but we shall see. and I will have to potentially adapt. I don't know how differently 10 and I don't want to big 10 and L up too much. Obviously, 10 and L is still going to be filled with lots of just people like myself, just average, very, very ordinary poker players. It's, yeah, it is definitely better than 5NL. Raise it up with King 8 of Hearts, get an absolutely nothing board. And I think when people bet one big blind, I'm inclined to attack it with a. If you have absolutely nothing here, I think just blast. Yeah, because the one big blind bet, yeah, okay, sometimes it's a hand, but a lot of the time it's just nonsense. So just get aggressive with it. Yeah, I think a call here with 7-8 suited. I don't think I want to raise here. The guy on the right's got not hasn't got many chips, and yeah, they will be getting involved on this board. Bottom pair, backdoors. Bottom pair and bad backdoors. Put it in the bin, sir. Good lad. So far in this session, I don't think I've seen anything that I thought was absolutely hideous. I think maybe the threes was getting a little overexcited with those threes. Seems like a pretty clear bet with the queen 10. We've got the double gutter. We don't have any real showdown. Ace is a bad card for him. Good card for us in general. So we've got another man who just decided to bet one big blind, and I think when someone's doing this, you've got little choice but to call, and of course look at 10-7 offsuit. So nothing in this session so far in terms of major hands, in terms of big pots. So I've had two very big hands with a set of queens and a set of threes. And I think both were again, both interesting spots where, although I'm winning the hand, I'm not sure I made the most. Looks like with Queen Deuce here, I think I probably like a fold. Yeah, against a guy doing that with no kicker, I think it's just a fold. So I'm going to go for a slightly aggro three bet with Queen 10. I don't mind that against cutoff. Like the sizing. I don't know what the exact sizing you're supposed to go. I think 9 against two big blinds is fine. Against 2.2 or 2.5, you can go 10 or 11. And Queen 10 against that sizing could even argue for a raise. We don't go for a call. Now, if memory serves me right, this guy overbets this spot. I am not sure what to do against overbets. I think that they ought to be quite bluff heavy. They're often not. They're often quite value heavy. He's got, the fact we got the Queen of Diamonds is really not a great card to have. And here, the fact that I've got a Queen of Diamonds might be a good card to actually blast with if we're going to try and get him off just a jack. I'm not sure I like the way I play that. Yeah. It feels like there's a mistake there somewhere. Maybe not. Maybe not. I think perhaps you could argue on the river for a bluff, but then do I want to turn a hand that's got that much showdown value into a bluff? I really don't know. Anyway, we move on quickly with a big hand. We've got the old Cowboys on the button against an under the gun Razor, who appears to have, I think, half a stack. So we're just looking to get this in. How much do we go? We go a little bit bigger than we perhaps ought to, but the guy snaps us off. So once he snaps us off, it's just bet, bet, bet. The guy's got a better hand than kings. Good luck to him. We don't need to go very big here. That's fine. And he's not even thinking. So when he's not even thinking, yeah, he's going to have, I suspect, tens, jacks, queens, that sort of hand a lot here. So I just go for a slight pause here to pretend like I'm thinking. But and this is what's happened a lot lately for me. I have had pair over pair a lot. Been on the right side of it, and it's really been a big part of why I've had a good run. So, like I said before, moving up when you're in an upswing, whether or not that's a mistake, I don't know. I will find out. But there's no question lately that I've been on the right side of that kind of setup a lot, and just does wonders for your win rate because there's not much he can really do there. It's not like he's ever going to fold. If I had jacks, I probably play it the same way, so I end up losing. King Queen in position, I think, is going to be a call. It's not a particularly big three bet, so certainly a call. Two overs in the open ender against a small bet, definitely continuing. In position, I probably prefer a call. I actually think I like calling here as well. I think if we had a jack, we would probably just keep calling. I would think we have more jacks than he does, because a jack is more likely to be in a calling of a three bet range than a three bet range itself. If he does have ace queen, king queen, even if he has a hand like pocket aces here, he's not going to be in love with this spot. And once we get to the stage here, no choice, put it in. And that, like I did earlier with the threes, went all in and think maybe it's a mistake. There, I think it has to be the right play. If you bet 2/3, he's certainly going to be calling with aces, kings, queens. Going all in, I'm not sure if he folds those hands. Given the pace he folded, he probably just folded ace king or a similar hand to similar hand to what I had myself. But it'd be interesting to see what people thought of that kind of play. It worked. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a good play. I just thought that calling twice, having called a three bet pre, obviously we've got the open ender as well. Once we get to that river, we've got king high. We can get the ace high hands all to fold. We've got to go for it. And is it real? Convincing that I would play a jack that way? Yes, it is. I don't know if my suits were great because I think my suits meant that I reduced the number of king jack and queen jack suited I could have. But yeah, I think that play was okay. And if you're going to go all in on the river with value, you have to also sometimes go in on the river with a bluff. Jack, we go for the ISO, go for a little smaller because the guy limping has only got 48 big blinds. This is perhaps a smidge loose from the cutoff. But given the passivity that I've mentioned, I still think it's the correct play. King deuce of diamonds, again, another sort of slightly dodgy open from the button. Still think it's worth doing. Seems like a pretty decent candidate to check back. Top pair, no kicker with the backdoor diamonds. Certainly a hand you do not want to get check raised with. So if you can have some hands to check back with, this is probably a decent candidate. When he checks twice, I'd like to see a bet. And I see a good size bet too. I think we can get caught. And maybe even go slightly larger. You can certainly get called by a queen, a jack, a 10, all those sorts of hands. Hand is vulnerable. Now on the right hand side, we've got the ladies. And we've got a 3-button button. I presume we go for the cold 4. How big do we go? Yeah, I think that's okay. Is that the right size? 6.6. Yeah, it's probably about right. It's about 2.5 times, isn't it? Maybe slightly large. Could have gone to 17.2. And our man on the button is thinking. Looks like a fairly steady session so far. I don't think we've had a biggish pot that we've really lost. Just like a lot of these sessions are so similar. There's not a huge amount of action. This is why I've considered one thing I'm going to consider is put more of a highlights video if I can do that at some stage, just so that can cut out a lot of the dead hands. Whether that plays better rather than these live sessions. Put up a decent number now, so I think a highlight session within the next month. Don't want to rush it, of course. Pocket sixes, go for the cool, and pretty indifferent, frankly. With the 6 of hearts, I think I continue without it. Not bothered. I think a fold is fine. Go for the 3-bet with the king 10 suited in second position. It's a little loose, but acceptable. Get a call, not from the original raiser, but do get a call from both of the blinds. What was he bet there? 2 big blinds into 19. Well, we call here. I mean, I could almost get behind a fold, frankly, without anything. Maybe because of the backdoor straight draw. Yeah, it's just not sure what that guy's doing, putting 2 big blinds in. But yeah, maybe that was 8 big blinds we didn't need to lose. Should we be 3-betting under the gun raiser with king 10 of hearts? Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay. Don't think it's a terrible play. 10-9 offsuit there. Could go either way. Don't hate it as a fold. Double gutter on the left with the old 6-7 from the blinds. And if memory serves me, could even raise here, really. And we don't. But, boom! On the turn, there it is. The absolute nuts. Go for the check, hoping this guy's going to bet. Spoiler alert, he doesn't. Oh no, got there just in time. And a shocking river card, but you've got to bet here. You can just bet fold. Hearts get there, board pairs. Just bet and then fold if somebody raises. Both of them cool. One of them has the same hand, and the other one I can't remember what he had. And aces, we're getting fairly close to the end of the session now, about 3 minutes. Ace has been kind to me lately. Will they be kind again? As we go for a bet on the right hand table with the flush draw. Go to 8. That's the smallest I would go. Queen 6-7. Half pot or slightly bigger. I think it's, yeah, that's fine. Very, very fast call. Not a great turn. 8-9 gets there. Yeah, I think this is okay. We're setting up for a river shove on favourable rivers. But we don't get one. We get a shocker. And the difficulty with this is against a decent opponent. Yeah, he goes all in. This is tricky. I decide, I believe, to fold. I don't see people taking hands like King Queen or Queen Jack, Queen 10 and just turning them into a bluff. I mean, I'm going to have an 8 here so infrequently. But he is going to have quite a few 8s. 7-8, 6-8, 8-9, pocket 8s, Queen 8 suited. Can have sets, you can have two pairs. We just don't beat much. And what we're asking him to do in terms of bluffs, what does he really have? Maybe 9-10, 9-10 of hearts, hand like that. Not much. Uh, yeah, I think that's I don't know. I think that's probably an okay fold. It's also just to note that the guy was calling so fast on flop and turn. He didn't even consider raising the turn. So I think that means stuff like sets are quite unlikely. So really on the river, he's representing a straight, but I think he has quite a few of them. So maybe a bit tight, but probably the right move. Sitting out on the right hand side. So the session there, that was probably the worst hand of the worst hand of the session, or at least the biggest losing hand of the session. So we're sat out, we're waiting for that big blind on the left hand table, but it's taking its time, giving us a few extra hands. Get another raise with something marginal. I think this is probably going to be the last hand. Again, seems like a decent candidate to check back. Think I know how this will go. Check, check, check. Small bet fold. Am I right? I am right. Okay, so that's going to be the end of the session, I believe. Yep. Thank you very much for watching. Like I say, this is probably going to be the last 5NL video. If there are any more, there might be one more. Or there might be more in the future if 10NL goes badly. But thanks a lot for watching. Take care. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.